Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
And Sassy says, hello there, welcome back.
And Sita is looking at some netting that's basically protecting some berries, and she is just, there they are.
She's concerned.
There they are. Yeah, photobomb, photobomb. So this is the Sri Yantra, guys. This is the Sri Yantra. What is the Sri Yantra? It's a mandala, and it basically is a creative pattern of the universe. And what we wanted to talk about is, we're not going to go into the Sri Yantra so much. We've done videos on that before. But we are going to talk about patterns of entrapment, so to speak. So we were having a discussion, and Cindy was sharing some information from the guides and about how everything we see here is really a soul trap.
It really is. And you know what the guides were talking to me about is the chaotic nature of everything, explaining to me how in our desire to separate from source and come here to have an experience, we chose this experience because it gives us free will, but it also gives us a lot of chaos. And there's been so much chaos created that it's becoming an actual problem, where we do have guides, we have angels, we have other entities who are willing to come here and help us, but we really have to want it. And that's where it gets difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, you have to ask in order to receive. And I was just listening, David Adapt 2030 did a video going back historically on the 1930s and how everything is repeating itself again, as things have a tendency to do. And also the controllers have a tendency to use the same playbook. They'll go back to it time and time again. They'll change certain things, but the overall pattern is still going to be the same. So, again, we have the economic collapse underway. That really has started, and it's going to get intense. We were watching a couple that has expatriated to Panama. I haven't watched them in over a year. Actually, they have a little baby now. I hadn't seen them since, I don't think I ever saw her pregnant. So, we haven't watched them in a while. But they were talking about what's going on in Panama, and they had like mile-long lines for gas, and then you could only buy $20 worth of gas. Literally wait 8 hours to get $20 worth of gas. And so they had to walk 10 miles to food shop. Think about that, guys. People used to be in better health and better shape. And, we have a society that is not used to walking 10 miles and carrying your groceries back.
And a baby.
Some people will park in the handicap spot when they're not handicapped because they don't want to walk their cart. Wait till they have to walk 10 miles to get food.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's something that could be coming up. But we were talking about how do we get out of this path? How do we get out of this system, this chaotic system that we kind of sort of put ourselves in? We really did, because we did choose free will. We did choose this experience. It's just really gotten out of hand. But you really have to want to. You have to want to get out of this system to the point where you're willing to give up those, those lower density foods, those processed foods. You got to be willing to take care of your temple. You have to be willing to get in touch with your soul, get in touch with your guides and angels, because there's so many that have come here to volunteer to help lead us out of this chaotic space that we find ourselves in, but they're sidelined because people are choosing to just simply stay in this complex that we've created.
Yeah, he was talking too about how in the 1930s, you think about so many of the great public works were started with Roosevelt's New Deal, and most of the highways, this is when they were laid, so many of the dams, so many of the national parks. You basically had the majority of the people were working for the government. And if it wasn't for the government, there would be nobody working almost. This is going to be even worse this time. So we have to be ready for it, because that government's going to make certain dates for mankind, so to speak. They're going to say you have to do X, Y, and Z in order to be able to work for the government. And you're not going to be able to work for the government until you do these certain things. How many people are going to go along with that? Because really what these things are going to involve is giving away your freedom. These things are going to involve giving away your sovereignty. These things are going to involve becoming part of the AI Borg collective. So it's going to be challenging, guys. I will share with you again. We kind of have a deep-seated knowing about how things are going to go, and it's so ingrained. We don't know all the details, and I don't think anybody could know all the details. It's impossible because the details are always changing. Even at the highest levels of the makers that are planning these things, they're fluid. So if this is happening, then we go down this path. If that happens, then we got to quickly change and we go down this path. They are fluidly watching and monitoring our consciousness, and they are well aware that we are expanding. And they're going to basically lay out their plans according to how our consciousness expands and how people catch up to what's going on. So what I see is we maybe have a few years. These years coming up are going to be extremely tough. They're not going to be easy by any means. We're going through a massive change, a change that we haven't seen. The closest equivalent would be the Great Depression. And even at that, everything moves so much faster now. So much faster now. We really only came out of the Great Depression because of World War II. That's really what brought about the end of the Depression. So, if it wasn't for that global war, it wouldn't have really ended, so to speak. And yet we know there's another global war on the horizon, and it's part of their plan. And again, that will be used to bring about a new world order. The world order that emerged out of World War II was the UN. The UN came into existence, reestablishing a home for the Jewish peoples. Israel ended up coming in a few years later. The U.S. as the dominant world power and in a direct Cold War with the Soviet Union. So you had that tension until the Soviet Union collapsed. So what's going to come out of this one is going to be, again, it's monetary collapse. As we know, it's going to get really tough because, again, people will get desperate and they will just give in and they will say, hey, the only job I could get is one that's working for the government. Mm-hmm. And they will take that, even though it means that they give up even more rights and become part of the Borg. When this is all about taking your sovereignty. That's what it's all about in the first place.
I think it's just really difficult for people to comprehend, to understand the depth of this system that we are having to work ourselves through. There's some questions to ask. It's like, do we have to go through this system and be part of this system? And the answer to that is it's up to you. It's up to you. And it's not an easy choice. If you don't want to be in the system, you don't have to, but there's certain things that need to be done. And I guess that's where we're getting at, is it's not going to be an easy road if you don't want to be a part of the system. You're going to have to give up a lot of conveniences.
Yeah, absolutely. So I see that we're going to have a couple of years of just ever descending descent into the organized chaos, which will bring about such a level of, it's just going to be hard, really, really hard, so that people will conform and that people will give in and say, whatever it takes, we just got to eat. We just have to be able to take care of our kids and family, and that's understandable. And they understand this, So again, this is why they're laying all that out there about having to eat bugs. It's going to get so bad that you'll be, just fine with crickets for dinner and mealworms for breakfast, if you're lucky enough to have 2 meals.
And I saw something horrible, like somebody's trying to make it sound like it's sort of a natural pattern to eat bugs, the way nature intended. I just thought that was horrible.
It is.
Normalize it.
But there's also going to be a time period where those people that want to stay sovereign, they're going to have to be fluid. And it may involve moving from one place to another. As you know, at some point in time, just look to what happened in World War II again. Look to what happened to the groups that were being picked on, so to speak, and look to be round up. And people had to form underground railroads. People had to disappear. People had to just do whatever they could to avoid being caught, because if they were a certain ethnicity, a certain a certain hereditary background, because it wasn't just the Jews that were picked on, it was gypsies, it was many other different groups that were so-called undesirables that were basically set for those camps that offered those showers that people didn't come back from. And so, again, it's going to be that same situation. Think about the Underground Railroad and slavery here in the United States. And, if you were trying to escape slavery, which that is what we are doing, because this is economic slavery. And in an even bigger sense, it's trying to enslave souls is what they are trying to do. So are we going to give in? Or we might have to literally go underground in order to make it. It might mean that you have to be mobile. It might mean that you have to live off the land, come together with like-minded people in small groups. And it might mean that, you're going to have to leave a certain state, and maybe you're going to have to travel by foot, and go somewhere else.
Right. But the point is we definitely have a choice, but we really need to get in touch with ourselves and have a desire to want to be out of this chaos. I remember growing up seeing them put in all these new different technologies, and it seemed like with every technology it took up more time just to use the technology, and I could never understand why are they putting these things that make everything so much more chaotic. But now I understand there was a pattern to it growing up, and we've all seen them putting in one new technology after the next. And that's not going to change. Moving forward, if you want to be in those societies, that's not going to change. Now, there's going to be plenty of people who decide that they want to be in these bigger cities, and that's fine. Let them, if that's their choice. But I really don't. I won't. I'm going to be out of the chaos, and I really desire, and I could hardly wait for that simple way of life. And if I never see another electronic again, that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. So, that's part of what's coming. Again, there will be some that, Cindy is one that will espouse and say that she can't stand certain New Age beliefs that really irk her. And I'll say, well, a lot of the New Age is really old. It's just old things that are revisited that were, we took for granted in golden and silver ages. But there are some things that are misunderstood. One of them is, the collective or consensus reality. So, the thought that we can completely change our reality by ignoring things is not accurate. You can't ignore things into nothingness. Ignore if you don't read a book and realize that World War II happened, did it not happen? Well, no, it did happen. And the same thing with what's happening now. Did 9/11 not happen? Did the plague upon the land not happen? If you want to, again, stick the head in the sand, ignore it, say la, 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 it doesn't mean the consensus reality is not your reality. Again, it's your perspective, how you choose to react to things. And you could react to things saying, well, this is an opportunity for me to see if I can be my very, very best self, as we faced adversity, I stood up and, I helped as many as I could. I did all I could. I didn't succumb. I didn't become part of the problem. I didn't become part of the Borg. I stayed a free sovereign thing, a free sovereign being. So, we could view it as that is our opportunities to show that we have what it takes that we have the will, the strength, and the endurance to stay a free sovereign being and not comply to the dictators that really control the system of this planet.
And there are a couple things I've noticed with New Age teachings where, sure, they might take it from ancient teachings, but it's being twisted. And one of the things that really bugs me these days is certain things children are being taught at such a young age in school. It's just not okay. And other things, as far as things like the law of attraction, that's also been twisted. And there's just so many things that we have been taught under the guise of somebody saying, well, this is a really good thing here. This is, this wonderful belief. And we're just following down the paths of these beings that really don't have our best intentions in mind.
And so, guys, you're basically in our temple here. And so if you haven't noticed, I've seen several orbs coming through in front of the camera. I'd be curious to play this one back and see all the orbs that are around.
I know, I was watching them too.
Yeah, there's the orbs. There's, so what you might call spirit guides are here. Angelic beings are here. And they're sharing this video with you. And in many ways, they were the inspiration for this video itself.
Yeah, so, it was when Mike and I just started having a conversation, and that's when the guides jumped in, and they're kind of saying like, hey, you guys are the ones who chose this. You wanted the free will, but with free will comes the chaos, and the chaos has become a problem. So we need to really get in touch with our guides, our higher self, to help lead us out of it.
Yes, absolutely. So whatever language is good for you, utilize it. If you say, well, I only trust God, well, then, just word something like, I call on, the powers that be, or however you want to word it, with the creator of this universe, the beings that are in harmony and working with the creator of this universe to restore balance, to work in my life and help me restore balance in my life, that I might help others to do the same in theirs. Something that way, if that doesn't feel offensive to you, it doesn't feel threatening, then go ahead and use something like that. If you feel comfortable saying, I call upon the benevolent beings of the angelic realms or the Vedic kingdom, or if you want to use the term, my spirit guides, my angels, my guardian angels, my ancestors, those that went before me that are still with me. Your team, whatever it is that you feel good with, any particular beings that you feel good with, call on them to help you, because they do want to help you, but they will not impose on your free will.
No, we all come here with a team, our own special team. Usually it starts out with one primary guide, but boy, does it grow from there. So just ask them, you need some direction, and don't be shy. Ask for details, ask for whatever you need, and just be open to the way it's received.
Yes, and Zeke is still with us too, by the way. He is still here,
Very
and he
so.
still works through both Rama and Sita. As always, guys, much love, God bless, and namaste.
Namaste.